Every Spider-Man Ever presents Amazing Spider-Man issue 37. A man named Professor Strom is released from prison and he has only one thing on his mind: revenge. Watching this from the trees is Frederick Foswell, current journalist for the Daily Bugle and Professor Strom's ex-cellmate. He knows that Professor Strom is planning something, so when Strom gets into a car driven by another ex-inmate, Max Young, Foswell decides to tail them. Watching this from even more trees is just another guy who wants to get in the good graces of Strom by shooting Foswell. But Spider-Man intervenes with a fist. Spidey gets the guy to tail Foswell, who is tailing Strom. But before we can add another layer of tailing to this tail-heavy opening, the police pull Spidey's car over, what with it being stolen, and Spider-Man leaves this criminal driver to the police, losing Foswell in the process. And at the Daily Bugle, Foswell reveals that he also lost Professor Strom. Knowing that Foswell will keep up the search though, Peter slips a spider tracer in his hat. At school, Peter is confronted by an angry Gwen Stacy, and he somehow angrily flirts with her enough that she starts to warm to him. And when Flash threatens to beat Peter up, and Peter calmly walks away, Gwen sees that he wasn't afraid at all. Elsewhere, the first step of Professor Strom's revenge is ready to test. A robot that looks like a green tentacled monster. He uses it to break into the lab of the person he wants revenge on, hoping to cause lots of monetary damage. Spider-Man is, unfortunately, nearby and he swings in to help any trapped victims of a fire that is now growing. He doesn't get much time to be baffled by this new green robot, as he quickly finds himself tangled in the robot's tentacles. With the green robot pinning him down, Spidey does the only thing he can think of, rolling them both towards the fire, hoping that the heat will override the sensitive equipment inside his robot attacker. It works, and Spider-Man makes a break for freedom, making it look like he started the fire to any passers-by. Strom seems entirely unfussed by this development, because he's already working on a second robot that looks and behaves entirely different to the first. And, in the wreckage of the lab, we learn who Strom wants revenge on: Norman Osborn, a businessman, a friend of J. Jonah Jameson, and the father of Peter's classmate/enemy, Harry Osborn. Norman knows that this fire wasn't caused by Spider-Man. This was the work of Professor Strom, who Norman cheated out of inventions in the past. Meanwhile and elsewhere, Frederick Foswell dons his Patch disguise, eager to find out where Strom is hiding, and Spider-Man decides to tail Patch, since he can't find Foswell anyway. So they both end up in an alleyway, where Max Young, Strom's henchman, surprises Patch with a gun. They're also both in time to see the second robot, equipped with a laser face, march out into the world to get revenge on Norman. After Patch is led inside the building at gunpoint, Spider-Man quickly rescues him and leaves him inside a locked room with a gun before he goes after the second robot. That robot is attacking Norman Osborn when Spider-Man enters to save the day. The fight is pretty one-sided, as Spider-Man spends most of it dodging the robot's attacks and laserhead, but it's ended prematurely when Norman, the man that Spider-Man was saving, hits Spidey over the head and leaves him for dead. Norman was mad at Spider-Man for interrupting his plan, apparently. Luckily, Spider-Man plays dead convincingly enough that the robot doesn't finish him off, destroying the plant instead, and heading back home to Professor Strom. Later, Spider-Man regains consciousness just in time to get back to Strom's base and surprise the second robot who's just arriving home, sliding low, grabbing its feet and slamming it into machinery. Max Young tries to escape. No way he's fighting Spider-Man, but he forgets that he left Foswell in the room, and Foswell has a gun. Back with Spidey and Strom, the Professor uses the head of his second robot, still firing a laser, to attack Spider-Man, but our hero webs the head away and Strom surrenders. But as Strom is about to reveal a secret, a rifle appears in the window, the rifle's owner keen to keep Strom quiet. Spider-Man is able to knock Strom out of the way, but the Professor has a heart attack and dies anyway, and the mysterious shooter is nowhere to be found when Spider-Man looks. There was no rope, no ladder, no helicopter. How did he do it? Later and elsewhere, Norman Osborn is given the good news by J. Jonah Jameson. Strom will no longer be a problem. But after Jonah leaves, we learn that Norman was the man with the rifle, and he vows to make Spider-Man pay for almost ruining everything. Thanks for watching, and while you decide what to watch next, here's a fun fact about this issue. Whilst this isn't Ditko's last issue, he's still got one more in him. This is his last cover. The cover for issue 38 is made up of 4 panels from the interior of the comic, presumably because Ditko had already left by that point.